I've been on the receiving end of verbal abuse from my stepson, Alex, who is my husband Mark's child from a previous marriage. I've kept it to myself, not wanting to upset Mark. One day, when I flew back to my hometown, Mark got stuck at work and couldn't pick me up, so Alex came instead. But when he arrived at the airport, his response to my thanks was harsh. "I just can't do this." "What?" "Just seeing your face makes me sick. Breathing the same air as you feel like it could lead to a disaster. And the idea of my car smelling like an old lady, no way." He taunted me with a smirk. "If you buy me a new car, I might let you ride. But you don't have that kind of money, do you? You're just a parasite living off my dad." Grinning, Alex continued. "Parasites like you can't ride in my car. Walk home, it's only a 3-hour walk." "All right." As Alex walked away, I felt a wave of anger. "Watch out. You'll see what happens when you mock me. I'm Emily, a housewife who married Mark, a colleague, 10 years ago. We met when I transferred from the accounting department to sales administration, where Mark worked. We grew close working together and he proposed 2 years later. It was like a dream, but I didn't answer right away. It is because Mark was a widower and a single father with a young son, Alex. He had been raising Alex with the help of his parents. I carefully tried to bond with Alex by having meals together and going to amusement parks and animated movies. Alex was a quiet and unfriendly kid. It was hard to believe that such a cold and aloof child was the child of gentle and generous Mark. But I knew it must be hard for a boy at his age to warm up to a new mom. I decided to think, if Alex rejects me, we'll drop the talk of marriage. Surprisingly, Alex accepted me. "I don't dislike my new mom," he said shyly. So, Mark and I got married, and the 3 of us started our life together. Little did I know, problems were just around the corner. After a while, Mark hesitantly asked me, "Emily, would it be too hard to switch to part-time work?" "Why?" "Well, Alex has been feeling lonely in the evenings. He wants you to come home earlier." I knew that before we got married since Mark had told me that Alex had stopped going to school recently. He would participate in events but otherwise stayed at home. Alex never answered the reason. Neither Alex's friend nor anyone else could answer Mark's question. Mark and I read books about truancy and attended lectures, trying to figure out how to be supportive parents. We secretly hoped he'd go back to school, even after starting middle school. The hardest part is for him. I hope he can go back to school soon. I was told by Mark, and we decided to watch over him warmly together. That's when Mark suggested I work part-time. So, I talked to my workplace and shifted from full-time to part-time. Maybe Alex felt left out being home alone, I thought. But then, Alex's attitude towards me changed drastically. It seemed like he waited for me to come home just to complain. "What's with today's lunch? Just leftovers and microwave meals? Isn't it normal to cook from scratch?" "I'm sorry, I didn't have time." "Oh, I'll make your lunchbox, the same one with mine. You can just heat it up." "Look, another shortcut. You could just come home during your lunch break and cook. I want fresh meals." As I struggled to respond, Alex smirked at me maliciously. "A mother should be able to do at least that." "All right, I got it." It takes 40 minutes to drive back and forth to work. My lunch break is just an hour. Even if I wake up early to prep, I end up with no time to eat my own lunch if I cook for him. Yet, I continued to sacrifice my break time to make Alex's lunch, hoping to make him happy. But instead of appreciating it, Alex frequently criticized me. "Can't you make the fried rice fluffier? It's nothing like the restaurants." Well, they are professionals, after all. Alex overheard and scolded me. "There you go making excuses again. Dad has to work to earn money, but you're just living off him. If you can't do the household chores properly, what are you good for?" "Sorry, you're right." Alex's smug smile widened. He also nitpicked over the cleaning and laundry. Following me around as I vacuumed, making a fuss over a single hair on the floor or a slight wrinkle on a shirt.
Is this how you think you're doing housework? Dad's too kind, but you're just slacking off. Do it properly.
I bit my lip. Despite never lifting a finger to help, all he did was complain. As I stayed silent, Alex frowned in annoyance.
What's with that look? If you have a problem, tell Dad. I'll make sure he knows you're verbally abusing me.
When it was just the two of us, Alex would act arrogantly, but in front of Mark, he'd play the hypocrite. He never dared to behave like this in front of his father. Quiet and gentle? Far from it. Alex was mean-spirited and twisted. My dislike for him grew stronger every day. I worried about his future with such a character, then I realized something. Alex's tone was just like my in-laws. They've disliked me since the beginning of our marriage. I remember once, when we dined out with them. I gently corrected Alex for eating loudly. After the dining finished, Mark left for the restroom. Once Mark left, my in-laws lashed out at me.
You're just Mark's wife, not Alex's mother. How dare you scold him? You're a century too early to give opinions to Mark and Alex. Just silently take care of them.
I still remember how Alex smirked beside his yelling grandmother. After Alex's mother passed away, my in-laws often came over to take care of young Alex instead of busy Mark. It was inevitable that he absorbed their views. I wondered if he spoke harshly to his friends too. Was his inability to fit in at school the reason he couldn't attend? My suspicions grew, but then I discovered a shocking truth. Alex wasn't unable to go to school. He didn't go because he didn't want to. I realized this when I overheard a conversation between Alex and his friend. I had come home early from work due to a fever. Although I had come home early from work due to a fever, I decided to make Alex's lunch, so I made pancakes and salad and delivered them to his room. As I was about to knock on his door, I heard him through it.
While the others are bored in class, I'm leveling up and getting stronger. Gotta grab the best items.
I listened as Alex laughed.
I'm gonna ask Dad for a new game console and the latest game release. He thinks I'm distracting myself from the sadness of not going to school with games. Hilarious, right? I skip school because I want to play games. What an idiot.
Unaware that I was listening, Alex cheerfully continued the conversation.
My mom? She's convenient for doing chores. And when I'm annoyed, I can take it out on her. Lucky she married into this family.
I felt dizzy. Thinking back, Alex's room was always filled with the sounds of video games. I couldn't believe Alex was skipping school just to play video games. Mark had set a daily limit on his gaming time. So, by the time Mark gets home, Alex is always watching TV in the living room, pretending to be keeping his promise on the surface. It must be because his grandparents let him play games as much as he wanted from a young age. When I burst into Alex's room, he looked startled and hurriedly hung up the phone.
Don't eavesdrop.
I tried to stay calm as I spoke to him.
Why don't you tell the truth? Mark is really worried about you. He thinks something happened at school.
Alex glared at me.
Leave me alone. Dad's just too serious about everything. He'd definitely forbid gaming. If you won't tell him, I will.
Angry, Alex suddenly seemed to get an idea, smirking at me. He fiddled with his phone and then showed it to me triumphantly.
Think you can go against me? I'll tell Dad you're cheating on him.
I was taken aback by what appeared on the screen. It showed a scene of me having dinner with a male acquaintance at a high-end restaurant.
I followed you secretly the other day. You were meeting your lover, weren't you?
I quickly thought it through. If Alex showed this to Mark and shared his thoughts, it seemed likely to create a rift between father and son.
I haven't betrayed Mark. Liar. I see through everything.
I sighed and shrugged.
Fine. I won't tell him. But you should when you get the chance. Tell him you don't want to go to school, not that you can't.
But my words seemed to have no effect on Alex. Since then, his rudeness only escalated. He either blatantly ignored me or showered me with sarcastic remarks. After Alex entered middle school, his attitude towards me became exclusively one of two things.
You only know how to do housework, parasite. You married Dad for his money, right? Women have it easy. Just charm a rich guy, get married, and then you can live leisurely. Cheating on Dad with his money, that's the lowest. Ever think about who's providing for this house?
When Alex entered middle school, we sold our apartment and moved to a suburban house. I hoped that his temper would mellow out a bit, but my expectations were disappointed. After all, he hardly went to school and ended up studying at an online high school. After graduating, he didn't get a regular job. He just took occasional part-time work when he felt like it. I had tried hard to bond with Alex early in our marriage, but I eventually gave up. I learned to ignore his insults when Mark wasn't around. One day, Mark came home from work and mentioned,
Alex wants to get his driver's license. I told him to save up his part-time earnings for it. Maybe having a goal will motivate him to work harder. He might even get a regular job once he's used to working.
A few days after this hopeful conversation, my MIL arrived unannounced, grinning as she told Mark,
I took care of the driving school enrollment for Alex.
What? Once he gets his license, I'll buy him a new car. It'll be fun. Don't make decisions like that. I told him he had to pay for it with his part-time earnings. Mark, unusually agitated, was met with a nonchalant response from his mother.
Alex needs our help, his salary isn't much. It's only right to support him.
Mark, perhaps thinking it futile, stopped protesting further. As expected, Alex didn't work and instead went to driving school. After getting his license, he had his grandmother buy him a foreign car, which he used to drive around and boast to his friends. Like Mark, I lost the will to advise either my MIL or Alex, secretly just hoping he wouldn't cause any accidents. When I was accustomed to Alex's driving, I flew to my hometown to attend a friend's wedding. The next day, while on my way back by plane, I received a message from Mark.
Sorry. A mistake by one of my subordinates came up, and I have to work overtime. I don't know what time I'll be able to come home.
I'm not good at driving. I had always asked Mark for a ride because I wasn't confident about making the round trip to and from the downtown airport.
It's okay, I'll catch a taxi,
I replied.
It's too far to walk from the station to our house, especially after the last bus has gone.
Then Mark sent an unexpected response.
Alex will come to pick you up at the airport. You don't like taxis, right?
I hesitated for a moment. He's coming to pick me up? That's nice, but the idea of being alone in the car with him is suffocating.
Alex wants to show off his driving skills.
I chuckled softly. He does have his endearing moments.
Then maybe I'll take him up on his offer. That's a good idea. I'll let Alex know.
Shortly after, a message from Alex came through.
Wait in the lobby.
It was a curt message, but I was happy. Maybe this would be a chance to close the gap between us. Eventually, the plane landed at the airport. I collected my baggage and headed to the lobby, pulling my suitcase. When I saw Alex in the distance, I stood up.
Thank you for coming to get me.
As I thanked him, Alex smirked.
I just can't do this.
What? I asked cautiously.
Is it because you drive roughly or something? I'm bad at driving too, so it's okay.
No, you idiot. Alex twisted his mouth.
Just seeing your face makes me feel sick. Breathing the same air seems like it could cause an accident. And the idea of my precious car smelling like an old lady, no way.
As I looked confused, he continued.
If you buy me a new car, I might let you ride. But you can't afford it, right? You're just a parasite living off my dad.
Grinning, Alex added.
Parasites like you can't ride. Walk home. It's only a 3-hour walk.
I stared at Alex's face. It took a while to comprehend his words.
Hey, did you get that? Is your brain okay?
Yeah.
Oh, and don't tell Dad. Just say you walked home for exercise. Maybe this will help you lose some weight.
You should thank me. Laughing loudly, Alex walked away. As I watched his fading back, intense anger rose within me. I had been enduring this, not wanting to upset Mark or ruin their father-son relationship. But I've reached my limit. Just watch. He'll see what happens when he mocks me. Walking home for 3 hours in the middle of the night is too much. I don't like it, but I'll take a taxi home. About 10 minutes into my walk to the taxi stand, my phone rang. It was Alex. I ignored the call, but as soon as it went to voicemail, he called again. He kept calling persistently. The echoing ring in the empty hallway was so loud that I finally gave in and answered. Hello.
Don't ignore me, answer quickly.
What?
If it's nothing, I'm hanging up. What did you tell Dad?
Alex sounded almost hysterical. He must have really upset Mark.
I just told him about your behavior. You had no business doing that.
Where are you?
On my way to the taxi stand. Then wait there. I'm coming to pick you up. No need to trouble yourself.
Oh, you've hung up. I was uneasy about facing Alex again, but going home alone might make things worse. Reluctantly, I waited at the taxi stand, and this time, we went back together. Strangely, my FIL's car was in the parking lot. Why so late? I wondered, entering the house to find Mark greeting me at the entrance. His gentle smile was comforting.
Welcome home, Emily. I'm back. Is my FIL here? I called my parents. I know you're tired, but after you've put your suitcase in the bedroom and changed, could you come to the living room? I want to have a family meeting with them.
Mark's serious face conveyed his firm resolve. I left my suitcase in the bedroom, changed, and headed to the living room where my in-laws were waiting. Right off the bat, my MAL started yelling.
Why call elderly parents at this hour? Surely Emily told you to do this. Such a poorly mannered DIL.
Exactly. There are better choices at work. Why did you marry someone like her, Mark?
How long are you going to be under her thumb?
My in-laws' insults made Mark's face darken. They had always behaved themselves in front of Mark. This was the first time they openly badmouthed me in his presence.
Stop speaking ill of Emily,
Mark said, his voice restrained, staring down his parents.
I'm sorry for calling you so late, but I needed to talk tonight.
Facing Alex and my in-laws, Mark and I sat on the sofa, beginning to talk with stern expressions.
I asked Alex to pick Emily up from the airport, and he readily agreed. But then he said Emily's taking a taxi home. She really said that? I called Emily, and she said she was left at the airport.
Is that what you're upset about? My MIL laughed, shrugging.
She should have just walked home. She'd have made it by morning.
Exactly.
She's just a DIL. Who does she think she is asking for a pickup?
Alex and my in-laws exchanged nods, but Mark's eyes narrowed. He calmly placed his phone on the living room table and spoke firmly.
The real issue is this image Emily sent me.
My in-laws and Alex looked at the phone and instantly paled.
When did you?
Alex looked at his grandparents begging for help, but my in-laws just turned their faces away, remaining silent. Displayed on Mark's phone were messages between Alex and my in-laws.
Alex, I heard from Mark you can't go to school. Are you unwell somewhere? Grandpa, Grandma, don't worry. I'm not going to school not because I can't, but because I don't want to. I mean, if I go to school, I can't play games, right? Well, that's it then. We thought Alex was just sensitive and found it hard to be with noisy teachers and friends. Don't tell Dad, okay? And I want to spend money on games, but my allowance isn't enough.
Would $20,000 be enough for now? I'll transfer it to your account without letting Mark know.
It's natural for a child to play. That's fine. Just relax at home as much as you want. Thanks, you guys really understand. Grandpa, Grandma, thanks a lot.
Mark, with a furious expression, and the silent in-laws and Alex listened as I explained.
A few years ago, I saw this displayed on Alex's phone when he left it in the living room. I took a photo thinking of consulting Mark, but it was hard to bring up, so I just kept it. I was just a kid, so I didn't put a lock on it. It's the worst to sneak a look at someone's phone. Exactly. What a senseless deal. Who's the unreasonable one here?
Mark shouted. With a look of indignation and frustration, he glared at his parents.
Why would you give Alex such a large sum of money without consulting me?
Well, he said to keep it a secret from you. The in-laws sulked.
Giving a little pocket money to a grandchild is fine, right? That's not the point. The issue is the daughter-in-law snooping on Alex's phone.
She's a stranger. I fought back against my outraged in-laws, my words laced with anger.
Oh, really? Then let's report Alex to the police for borrowing money without permission from a stranger. What?
I operated my phone again and showed them a different image. It was a credit card statement I had previously photographed. Alex was the only one showing panic among the puzzled faces.
$10,000 for game charges? Emily, what is this?
Yes.
That's the money Alex borrowed from me without permission. Nonsense! Alex wouldn't do such a thing.
My MAL exclaimed, then covered her mouth in haste. Seeing Alex's pale face, it seemed they realized the truth.
I was shocked when I checked my account balance and found it almost empty.
I shrugged my shoulders.
The statement showed it was all used for game content. Alex, you registered my card number for your online game payments without permission.
We usually use Emily's card for household electronics. It's in the drawer of the bedroom with the PIN written down so I can use it immediately, as I tend to forget the numbers. Mark added.
I never thought Alex would use it without permission. And why would you do such a thing when it's obviously going to be discovered? It's not a big deal. We're family.
Alex yelled in frustration. The in-laws joined in.
What's wrong with giving $10,000? It's nothing. Yeah, why does a daughter-in-law have to make such a fuss? You spoil Alex by letting him get away with everything. That's why he's become so self-centered.
Mark raised his voice. He stood up impatiently, glaring at his parents and Alex.
I appreciate you looking after Alex when I was busy with work. But it's wrong to give him lots of money and let him do whatever he wants. Alex, aren't you going to show any remorse for using your parents' money?
The in-laws and Alex exchanged glances, their lips pursed in dissatisfaction.
It's unfair to be criticized for spoiling our grandson. If there's a problem with Alex's upbringing, it's the mother's fault. Children learn by watching their mother. The DIL's upbringing is inadequate. Exactly, Emily, take responsibility.
Pointed at by my FIL, I was speechless. My anger turned into laughter. There was nothing but to do so.
Is it my responsibility, then?
But it's true, isn't it? Suddenly, I noticed Mark's eyes glaring fiercely, his fists clenched in anger.
Both of you always have so much to say. Emily married me, a man with a child, on her first marriage. Do you know what kind of resolve she had to come into this family?
Mark.
Everyone should be more grateful to Emily.
Then, Alex, who had been silent with his mouth turned down at the corners, suddenly looked up as if he had an idea. With a smirking face, he addressed Mark.
Dad, you really trust this Emily, huh? Of course.
Annoyed, Mark responded, and Alex, with a full smile, proclaimed.
This woman, she's been cheating. Yeah, maybe she still is. What? Cheating? I knew it, I had a feeling. Such a worthless woman.
The in-laws became excited.
Do you have proof? Of course. Just wait.
As Mark frowned skeptically, Alex scrolled through his phone, hurrying to find the so-called proof.
Ah, found it.
Let's see. The in-laws peered eagerly at the screen. Alex, sitting back smugly and with a look of triumph, declared confidently.
I'm smart, so I kept the photo from that time.
Good job, Alex. Michael condescendingly addressed Mark.
You see now? Get rid of such a woman. If you need a wife just for housekeeping, you can find another.
That's right.
She should be grateful just to be in this house, but instead, she's acting like a mother. So annoying.
Yeah.
You're living off Dad and yet have the nerve to cheat. Shameless.
Alex joined in angrily.
Dad, you really lack judgment. Next time you marry, find someone younger, prettier, and more obedient.
50-something, ordinary-looking, and sorry for being defiant. My anger boiled.
So, get out, cheating woman. This is mine and Dad's house.
I'm not cheating. I looked up at Mark, who seemed to understand and nodded. Peering at Alex's phone, then meeting my gaze, Mark sighed deeply.
Alex, you followed Emily?
Yeah.
She dressed up and went out, not acting her age. It was a yearly dinner with a friend. Right, cheating with a man. A what?
Confused, Alex and the in-laws looked at Mark, who wore a stern expression.
December 20th, at the restaurant near the station. An old friend of mine, who works abroad, comes home for Christmas, so we eat together every year. He's been my friend for years and Emily's college classmate.
It's only me and him in the photo, but Mark joined us after work. See, it's a table for 4.
Oh, it's true.
The in-laws scrutinized the phone screen, then glanced at Alex.
Seriously? I kind of remember this guy. He's Dad's friend?
Alex scratched his head and laughed it off. However, his complaints towards me didn't seem to end, and he pointed at me, hurling more insults.
But still, she's living off Dad's money, right? Dad's paying the house loan too.
Mael joined in.
That's right. And yet she acts so high and mighty. Who does she think she is? I've never once thought of her as a mother. I actually wanted to oppose the marriage, but she forced her way into our house.
No, you accepted me, and that's why we got married. What are you saying now?
It's obvious she married Mark for his money. Mark, wake up. You're being deceived.
Mark shrugged off his clinging mother and firmly stated.
Alex asked for her to come home early, so she switched to part-time work. Have you forgotten? Was that so? I feel guilty for leaving all the household work to Emily while I'm busy with work. And you, who hardly works and just plays games at home, have no right to say anything.
Mark glared sternly at Alex.
Thanks to Emily, we can live in this spacious house. Be grateful to her. What? This house was bought by Emily.
Alex's eyes widened.
What do you mean? When Alex was struggling with school and staying at home, Emily suggested moving to a suburban house from our apartment near the station, thinking you would be more comfortable.
Alex was speechless as Mark turned to him.
Emily asked me to keep it a secret, not wanting to make you uncomfortable. But I should have told you sooner.
Alex's face turned pale.
Technically, it's Emily's and my house, since I contribute to the expenses too. By the way, Alex, have you paid even a penny towards living expenses since you started working? Wait, you're not telling Alex to leave, are you?
The in-laws and Alex panicked.
Emily, the cheating thing was just a misunderstanding, and we didn't know this house was bought by you. Right, Alex? Yeah, if you bought it, I don't need to leave.
Alex smiled ingratiatingly at me. Let's forget about the past and get along, Mom. We're family, after all. Please forgive me. Looking forward to being with you. He smiled, trying to cozy up to me, but Mark finally lost his temper.
How dare you say such shameless things?
Mark's bellow made the in-laws and Alex tremble.
If you care so much about Alex, then live with him. I refuse to take care of him any longer. From today, I cut ties with you. Don't ever show your faces again. You're so cold-hearted, Mark. You used to be so kind, but you've completely changed because of your wife. A father, yet so heartless.
Mark glanced coldly at his lamenting in-laws.
All right. Alex, come live with us from today. We'll live together.
Thanks, Grandpa. Dad, you'll regret being so cold to your precious heir. Complaining, the in-laws and Alex left our house. Living with them, Alex's self-centeredness seemed to exasperate his elderly grandparents. Despite living with his elderly grandparents, Alex doesn't help with any household chores at all. Alex spends more time playing games than working, and when his part-time job earnings run out, he pesters his pension-living grandparents for pocket money.
Mark, maybe you should take Alex back? Parents should take care of their children. Our pension and savings are getting devoured by Alex. Please, take him back.
Later, the in-laws called Mark, begging him to take Alex back, but Mark immediately blocked their number. Half a year passed, and the $10,000 Alex had used from my account still hadn't been returned. When I contacted Alex, his response was astonishing.
We're family, so it's not a crime. Don't you know that?
It might not be a criminal offense, but I can sue you in civil court.
What?
You didn't know? If you don't pay, I'll take you to court. Perhaps scared by my threat, the next day $10,000 was deposited into my account. Of course, Alex didn't have that kind of money, so it seems his grandparents covered the cost for him. However, Alex had no intention of repaying them and continued to laze around at his parents' home without working. This caused even more strife between Alex and his grandparents. Recently, Alex and Raphael have been having big fights every day. Their quarrels have become so loud and frequent that the neighbors often call the police, and now the family is considered a nuisance in the neighborhood. A month after Mark kicked Alex out, Mark and I celebrated our 10th wedding anniversary at the restaurant where he had proposed, toasting with wine.
I'm sorry, Emily, for all the hardship.
Mark, you're still apologizing?
It's okay now.
Smiling, I reassured him, and Mark spoke in a soft tone.
I had an inkling that Alex and my parents didn't think highly of you. I optimistically thought they'd warm up to you eventually. I never imagined they'd hurl such terrible insults at you.
Thanks to you standing up for me, I feel relieved.
Thank you.
Mark immediately retorted as I expressed my gratitude with a smile.
Of course. I should have cut ties with them sooner. I wanted to get along with your family. It's a pity. What are you saying?
You are much more important to me. I was warmed by Mark's kind words and gentle smile. I felt grateful to be married to him. Though I never managed to connect with Alex and the in-laws, I resolved to continue growing old with Mark.
I totally forgot I had a spa appointment today.
Walk to the hospital, will you? Come on, hurry up and get out.
If you don't get out yourself, I'll make you get out.
My granddaughter Avery and I were confused, both of us delirious with high fever. On a snowy day, we had both come down with a fever. We were in the car, being driven to the clinic by my daughter-in-law Riley, after pleading with her. We couldn't understand Riley's words and were unable to stand up from our seats in the car. Apparently, she didn't like that. Riley came around to the back seat and literally dragged Avery and me out of the car.
Now the nuisances are gone. Just make it to the clinic on your own,
she said, laughing as she drove away.
Mom, did she really just abandon us?
Even in such a situation, Avery still saw her as her mother. Even before this incident, Avery had been mistreated by Riley. She kept all the harassment from us adults, acting bravely. But when you're sick, your true feelings come out. In her feverish delirium, Avery teared up as she watched the car driving away. We had been enduring Riley's mistreatment for a while, but this was the last straw. I managed to make a call from the hospital to a certain person. I am Mila Smith. I retired last year and am a 60-year-old housewife working part-time. Until 6 months ago, I lived with my husband in a small house. But then, my husband suddenly passed away from an illness. Just 2 months after it was discovered. It was such a sudden event, both my son Theo and I had a hard time accepting it as reality. especially me, as I had been with my husband since middle school. We were practically one. Right after he passed, I couldn't even eat. Clearing out his belongings in our home, I couldn't stop crying and made little progress. Occasionally, Theo would come over to help me. Gradually, I accepted reality and finished organizing the house. That's when Theo suggested I live with him and his family.
But you have a wife, so I'll pass.
Theo married around the age of 30. His wife, Riley, 2 years younger than him, was a stay-at-home mom. They met at work, and it was Riley who made the first move. Theo was impressed by her passionate approach, and after dating for about 6 months, they had a quick wedding. Riley, who quit her job for marriage, soon had their daughter, Avery. Riley truly loves Theo. I didn't see her often, but it was clear from her actions how much she cared for him. Perhaps that's why she wanted to keep her distance from us. Riley and Theo had bought a condo about an hour's drive from our house and lived there. But Theo always cared greatly for his parents. He even bought me a fridge for my birthday once. Not just that, he would take me and his family on trips for mine and my husband's wedding anniversary. From an outsider's perspective, he's a son with strong family ties. We didn't spoil our kids in every way, you know. We always made sure to praise them when they did well, and we didn't hesitate to scold them when they did something wrong or bad. Even after getting married, we told Theo not to feel obligated towards us but to prioritize Riley and their family. However, Theo always said, "Riley is so understanding. She always supports me," and never changed his behavior. But I guess Riley had her grievances with Theo. Whenever it was just us women, she would indirectly say things that felt hostile. She never did anything direct like breaking things, but I worried that something might happen if we spent too long together. Theo is a good kid, but he's not great at picking up on things. Maybe Riley finds this convenient, as she always behaves like a gentle and kind woman in front of Theo. I guess they get along fine that way. Honestly, because of these circumstances, I had some reservations about moving in with them.
Living alone can be tough, right? Besides, Riley and Avery are all for living together.
With my granddaughter Avery around, I probably wouldn't be alone with Riley too often. And it's unlikely she'd do anything in front of Theo. Avery is a cheerful kid, more like Theo in personality. And she's quite fond of me. Holding on to a faint hope, I nodded my agreement.
All right. I'll be careful not to be a bother. I'd like to live with you all. You're more than welcome. We've got a room ready for you.
Since I wasn't giving up my own home, I only needed to pack the essentials. So, I moved in with them, leaving my most treasured items at my own house. But my faint hope was quickly shattered. After I moved in, Riley started harassing me, especially when Theo wasn't around. She'd open packages that were delivered for me, eat the ice cream I bought without asking. And sometimes she wouldn't wash my laundry.
You're capable of doing it yourself, so please do. And buy your own detergent.
If I tried to use the dryer, she'd get angry about the wasted electricity. I reluctantly started separating my laundry into a different basket. And Theo? He didn't notice a thing. In fact, he thought I was doing these chores voluntarily. Probably because he wasn't home much and left all the housework to Riley. Riley, in front of Theo, would actively take care of Avery, so their household seemed to function well enough. But for me, this life was stifling. I debated many times whether to tell Theo or to leave the house. But I figured if I just put up with it, everything would be fine. I didn't come here to break up a family that has a child. Instead of talking to Theo, I started keeping a diary of my unspoken thoughts. I detailed everything that happened, in case I needed evidence in the future. Using a voice recorder might have been more concrete evidence. But I didn't want to escalate things, so I didn't go that far. It's frustrating, but I'm living under their roof. I decided to put up with it until things settled down. That was until I saw Riley mistreating Avery. I caught her taking Avery's stuffed animal doll and throwing it in the trash. It didn't seem like discipline or teaching. Theo has always been fond of kids, and he adores his daughter Avery to no end. Almost like she can do no wrong in his eyes. He regularly buys her whatever she wants, like the stuffed toy that was just thrown away. There was no indication that Avery had been misbehaving, so I asked her, "Avery, what happened?" "It's always like this." "Always?" "When Dad's here, nothing happens. But when he's gone, she becomes like a monster. It's scary."
That bad?
"Sometimes there's no food, and she ripped the clothes Dad bought for me, saying it's because I'm a bad kid." It seems like Riley is jealous of Avery, too. It's obvious to me how much Theo cherishes Riley. The engagement and wedding rings he bought for her were from the expensive brand she wanted, costing over $10,000 in total. He never misses giving her gifts for birthdays or anniversaries. Still, it seems Riley feels she's not his #1 priority. In front of Theo, she acts like a good mother, but when he's not around, she's like a dictator. "When I'm with Dad, Mom is so nice and buys me everything. But I'm scared of getting her angry, so please keep what I said a secret." Avery is just in 2nd grade this year. Such a young child, and she's been bearing this all alone. Why didn't I realize sooner? This isn't a problem that can be solved just by me enduring it. I regret that I was too caught up in my own problems. The day I witnessed the harassment, Theo came home from work late, after 11 p.m. I decided to talk to him the next day. But unfortunately, he had to leave on an emergency business trip. There was a big trouble, and he didn't have time for a conversation. While Theo was away, Riley was inviting friends over to our house almost every day. Birds of a feather flock together, I guess. Her friends didn't seem to find anything odd about Riley's behavior. She was doing whatever she wanted, hosting parties at the house every day. During this time, neither Avery nor I had meals prepared for us. And the harassment towards me intensified. I wanted to call Theo about Avery, but I had to wait for the right moment. However, Riley seemed to sense my intentions. "Don't report to Theo, please. It would make my position even worse." Riley took away both my smartphone and Avery's kid's phone. I couldn't find where she hid them, so I couldn't get them back. There's a landline at my own house, but I don't know Theo's cell number. Plus, Riley spends a lot of time at home, and I feel like I'm under surveillance. Escaping isn't easy, and it wouldn't solve anything if I left without Avery. I need to find a way to save her. I'm getting anxious. Right now, Riley is neglecting us. I'm using my own money to buy food and cook for Avery. I'm doing all our laundry, and I even walk Avery to her extracurricular activities. I'm handling everything from taking out the trash to cleaning up. Still, with Riley throwing parties every day, if I miss even one day of cleaning, the house starts to smell. Avery, with her chronic bronchial issues, needs regular visits to a major hospital. Sometimes she needs tests like X-rays or blood work, which means long hours at the hospital. I'm the one accompanying her and listening to the doctors.
Grandma, are you pushing yourself too hard?
I'm fine, honey. Grandma's here to take care of you. Yeah. I just wish Dad would come home soon. Seeing Avery tear up like that, I felt an urgent need to resolve this situation. It's only been 2 months since I moved in. I quit my part-time job when I moved, and I'm not part of any community groups like a senior center. With my smartphone taken away, I have no way to contact anyone. Right now, I have nobody to talk to about this. I don't even know how long Theo's business trip will last. It's the beginning of a period of despair. 2 months into this life, in February. Perhaps due to global warming, this year has been marked by extreme temperature fluctuations. I think the mental stress is a factor, but both Avery and I have been unwell. Avery has missed school occasionally, but she says school is better than home. And keeps going. Then came the day of a once-in-a-decade snowstorm. Feeling unwell from the day before, I woke up with a fever of 102 degrees Fahrenheit. It wasn't just me, Avery also seemed to have a fever and was struggling even to get up. We didn't have any fever reducers or pain relievers at home. It might be a seasonal epidemic. And I've heard it's risky to use over-the-counter fever reducers in such cases. We need to get to a pediatrician or a general practitioner. Riley has known about our health issues and has done nothing so far. I don't expect her to do anything this time either. The nearest hospital is about a 10-minute walk. Though Avery is only in 2nd grade, she's a bit taller than her peers. And I'm over 60 now. Even though I've never been seriously injured, it's physically demanding. If only I wasn't down with a fever. But wishing doesn't change reality. Somehow, I managed to convince Riley to let me use the landline to call a taxi. But because of the heavy snow, all the taxis were out, and they couldn't dispatch one for us. With no way to tell how long it would take, we were refused service. How can I get Avery to the hospital? I had no choice but to ask Riley for help. After much deliberation, I decided to go with that plan.
Please, Riley, can you drive us to the hospital?
I pleaded with Riley. She looked contemplative for a moment before saying, "Okay, I will. But you know, asking me for a favor means you owe me something in return, right?" Basically, she was saying if she's going to act like a taxi, I need to pay her. There could be something seriously wrong with Avery. If paying her is what it takes, I have no choice but to go along with it.
It's not much, but will this do?
I handed over all the money I had in my wallet, $100, to Riley. It must have been less than she expected, as her face showed clear displeasure. It's no wonder the amount was small. I had quit my part-time job. And despite this, I was covering the expenses for Avery that Riley didn't pay. This $100 was significant for me, but I had no choice. Riley, still looking unsatisfied, put the money firmly into her wallet. "Well, all right. Hurry up and get ready," she said, reluctantly agreeing to take us. I was worried her mood might change any minute. I quickly got Avery, who was very weak, ready, and we got into the car. Because of the rush, I was still in my pajamas. Riley just stared at her phone the whole time we were getting ready. As we set off in the blinding white snow, I could feel the tension in her rough driving. Halfway to the hospital, the car came to an abrupt stop.
What's wrong? Did something break?
I just remembered, I have a spa appointment today. Walk the rest of the way to the hospital, will you? Come on, get out quickly.
If you don't get out yourself, I'll make you get out.
Avery and I, both delirious with high fever, were confused. We couldn't understand what Riley was saying and couldn't get up from the car. Apparently, she didn't like that. Riley came around to the back seat and literally dragged Avery and me out of the car. "Now the nuisances are gone. Just make it to the hospital on your own," she said, laughing as she drove away.
Mom, did she really just abandon us?
Even in such a situation, for Avery, Riley was still her mother. With tears in her unfocused, feverish eyes, Avery watched the car drive away. "Avery, let's get to the hospital first. We'll figure out something about your mom." I might not have been very convincing, as I hadn't been able to do much until then. But that was all I could offer her at the moment. I was fighting back tears of guilt and helplessness. Supporting each other, we somehow managed to walk to the hospital. "Mom." Even while receiving N4 treatment, Avery talked about Riley. "Why does my young granddaughter have to suffer like this?" My patience had reached its limit. Fortunately, it was the hospital Avery regularly visited, so they agreed to admit her. Life in the hospital was more restful than at home. I realized then how much I had been on edge. After a bit of mental and physical recovery, we were ready to be discharged. It had been 3 days. Returning home, Riley was visibly shocked to see us. "Seriously? You're alive?" While thinking what a terrible thing to say, I instinctively hid Avery behind me.
"Yes, we got proper treatment at the hospital."
"The worst. I kicked you out to avoid making this place a scene of an accident. It would have been better if you'd disappeared." Riley looked down on us with a disdainful expression. Her surprise at seeing only us return turned into shock when someone else appeared.
Riley, what are you saying?
The person who came up behind us was Theo.
Theo, why are you here?
During our hospital stay, I had called a particular person. It was Theo. As Avery's regular hospital had Theo's cell number for emergencies, I asked the hospital to let me call him to report our admission. They allowed it, considering our blood relation. It seemed Riley had been regularly updating Theo. But she hadn't mentioned our ill health. She told him she was handling all the household chores.
It's been cold lately. You two rest up. Can Riley take over for you?
Riley isn't here.
Why not? Did she already leave?
Riley was supposed to bring us, but she kicked us out of the car. I told Theo everything about how Riley had been treating us, not sparing any details. I reported how she harassed both Avery and me and hadn't done any household chores since Theo left on his business trip. I can't believe Riley would do such things, but if you say so, it must be true. I'll hurry back, just wait a little longer. Initially, Theo had denied what I said. But as I kept talking fervently, he seemed to realize it was serious. However, he needed to see evidence with his own eyes to be convinced. I strongly urged him to come and see the situation himself and asked him to take some time off work. As promised, Theo managed to finish his work early and returned home temporarily.
Riley, what's all this about? Explain everything. Is what you just said really how you feel? It's not true. That was just a joke.
Mom, let's stop this now. Avery, who had been quietly observing our argument, spoke up. Through tears, she started recounting the treatment she had received from Riley. Though she stumbled over her words at times, the harshness of her experiences was too much for a grade schooler.
I can't believe this. I didn't think she was that kind of person. It's not true. Avery, stop lying.
Theo, usually gentle, had a tense expression. He rushed to comfort Avery, who continued to cry. Ignoring Riley, who kept denying everything, I took out my diary.
Here's the proof. This is all your handwriting, right? You made it all up. In fact, I'm the one who's been harassed. Please believe me, Theo.
Riley clung to Theo's arm, crying. Without a glance at Riley, Theo began reading my diary. There's more proof. Come inside. I regretted not having bought a voice recorder. But it was too late to turn back now. I had to show more concrete evidence, or Riley might twist things in her favor. I let Theo into the house, half believing I had some physical proof. My intuition was correct. It seemed Riley had thrown another party at home yesterday. The living room was littered with empty alcohol cans and leftover food packages. With us having been away for 3 days, there was a slight odor too.
So, everything Avery and Mom said is true. This is just a one-time thing. I couldn't clean up.
Riley, let's get a divorce. I'll take care of Avery. Theo's decision to bring up divorce, without listening to Riley's excuses, was a clear indication of his feelings. Riley, faced with the prospect of divorce, couldn't accept it. No, I won't let you go, she cried like a child, unable to have a rational conversation. Theo quickly called Riley's parents to explain the situation. The call was on speakerphone, so we could hear her parents' reactions. They sounded very shocked, followed by what seemed like a sigh. They apologized profusely before hanging up. You can imagine that Riley wasn't in a state to have a coherent conversation right then. Riley remained inconsolable, repeatedly apologizing to Theo but never explaining anything to us. It was clear we couldn't stay there forever. The 3 of us, excluding Riley, decided to start living in my house. Theo, unable to let go of his feelings, tried to talk to Riley several times. But she just kept denying everything.
I didn't do anything wrong.
It made me angry all over again. She wasn't always bad.
I would have reconsidered if she changed her attitude, but with no change in her behavior, Theo decided to go through with the divorce. The divorce was finalized through lawyers since a conversation with Riley was impossible. Avery initially resisted the idea. Mom is so pitiful. Dad should stay with her. Despite the harassment she had faced. Probably because Riley behaved well in Theo's presence. That little bit of sweetness was hard to forget. In a way, maybe Riley was pitiable too, her life changing dramatically after meeting Theo. Hearing Avery's words, I felt pity for Riley for the first time, beyond just anger. But Theo and I always showed Avery love. Living without fear of others' faces is surely more peaceful for Avery. Adjusting to life in our house and feeling safe away from her mother, Avery gradually decided to distance herself from Riley. Theo could have sought child support and alimony but chose not to, unable to cut ties completely. Since Riley was a stay-at-home wife with no savings or income, there were no financial claims made, and the divorce was solely based on other grounds. Riley's parents, having received the news from Theo, flew in from their remote countryside home, which took some time due to the distance. After the divorce was finalized, Riley was taken back by her parents to be cared for at their home. They came to us directly to apologize for the trouble caused. Especially to me, they offered cash as a form of reparation. According to Riley's parents, she seemed to have suffered a mental breakdown after separating from Theo. Since her student days, she had a tendency to become deeply involved in relationships. There had been several instances where she had caused trouble or harassed her partners. Each breakup led to her being deeply depressed and often confined herself at home. As she matured and her life outside of personal relationships became more fulfilling, she appeared to have stabilized mentally. That was when she met Theo and fell in love. Theo, being kind-hearted, always tried to keep her reassured. However, she was displeased with his kindness towards others. All these factors culminated in the current situation. With her parents' help, she started visiting a psychiatrist. But she was struggling to recover, mostly staying in her room. Hospitalization was considered, but for now, she was being closely monitored at home. All contact information for Theo was deleted on the doctor's advice. And Theo also deleted hers, meaning they would no longer be in contact. I declined to accept the reparation money, asking them to use it for Riley's treatment instead. Theo seemed unaware of Riley's current state. We, as parents, debated whether to inform him. But Theo and Avery might not want to be reminded of it. Especially for Avery, who might blame herself saying, "If only I wasn't there." The scars Riley had inflicted on her during her childhood were still profound. We decided to keep it between us, the parents. Living with Theo and Avery started, and it hasn't been a burden at all. I feel sorry that Avery had to change schools. But she says it doesn't bother her. Theo tries to finish work early and come home. I haven't resumed my part-time job, instead joining a local exercise club for seniors. This incident made me realize the importance of engaging with the community. And I've made acquaintances in the neighborhood. Now, I'm living modest but happy days with my beloved son and granddaughter. My name is Rachel. I'm in my 3rd year of marriage, and I have a 2-year-old daughter. Every day, I drop her off at daycare and head to my part-time job. After work, I pick her up and we do our shopping, her hand in mine. By the time we get home, I'm exhausted, but I still have to take care of her and prepare dinner. Managing household chores, taking care of a child, and working is something most housewives do. However, the biggest burden for me is my husband, Simon. Simon used to be kind before we had our child. I never expected him to help with the housework and was willing to do anything for him. But after our daughter was born, I started to feel physically drained and began asking him for help. He, however, started yelling at me, "Can't you handle your own job?" Now, he does nothing at all. Even when I'm exhausted, sick, or injured, he won't lift a finger to help. This has, in a way, made me stronger.
I used to frequently visit doctors for various ailments, but now I can handle a bit of illness without collapsing. Simon comes home late, and even when he's early, he just gives orders and doesn't move a muscle. "Hey, the TV." He commands, even when the remote is right in front of him, expecting me to turn it on or change the channel like a king. I don't want to rock the boat at home, so I just listen to him. He left for a trip about 3 days ago, which I knew was a romantic getaway with someone else. But his absence meant peace for me. I could relax, feeling safe and happy without him, even though he's having an affair. I wonder if we can still be called a married couple. Despite these doubts, I can't bring myself to divorce him and take away our daughter's father. I know life would be easier if I divorced, but I can't do it. It was while I was thinking about all this that I suddenly felt dizzy and started to lose consciousness while looking after my daughter. I thought, I can't collapse. My daughter will be alone. I tried to stay conscious, but eventually passed out to the sound of her crying. When I came to, I was in a hospital bed. Apparently, the neighbor lady heard my daughter crying, came over, and found me collapsed, so she called an ambulance. My in-laws were the ones who told me this. They looked relieved to see me awake and kept saying, "Thank goodness."
Are you okay, Rachel? Where's my daughter? Your neighbor's taking care of her. She called us and was surprised to hear you were hospitalized.
I'm sorry.
Hey, Rachel, are you and Simon happy together?
I wanted to say yes, but I choked up.
Your neighbor called us, which is odd. Normally, she would have contacted Simon, right? It's okay that she called us, but it's strange.
I'm sorry.
Tell me the truth, please.
We get along, fine, I managed to say before bursting into tears. I couldn't bring myself to lie. We're fine. No need to worry. I wish I could have said those words, but I just couldn't tell such a lie.
Is there something wrong?
Sorry.
You look so weak. Has he been making you suffer?
She took my hand and asked quietly. I wanted to avoid worrying her, but I also wanted help. I don't know what to do.
Take your time. We won't do anything bad. Just talk when you're ready.
I nodded, tears streaming down my face. I'm scared of Simon. It was the first time I admitted it. Even to myself. I had always been denied and belittled by him, made to feel like a useless wife. And now I realized I was scared of him. So, I was scared of him. Always being negated, told I'm no good, constantly called a useless wife who can't do anything. Somewhere along the line, I became afraid of him. I couldn't stop the words from pouring out after that. No matter how high my fever is, he won't help. When the baby cries, he just complains about the noise. I've had to walk outside for hours in the cold, holding my baby, even in rain or snow. He's left us in remote towns during drives because my baby was crying, and I had to find my way home. He just drinks beer and watches TV, telling me to hurry up and cook. I'm exhausted every day.
He doesn't do anything at all?
He says everything at home is my job.
That's ridiculous. Rachel, you work too.
It doesn't matter to him. He says I'm a slowpoke who can't do anything right, and it's all my fault. So, it can't be helped. My mother-in-law exchanged a look with my father-in-law, an indescribable expression on her face.
And what about Simon? Where is he?
Simon is with his mistress.
What? He's cheating?
Yes, I even know who it is.
That must be hard on you.
No, it's more peaceful without him here, yelling at the kid or making me do everything his way. I don't care anymore about his affairs or what he does.
Oh my.
My neighbor contacted you because she knew about Simon's affair.
How does she know?
She's seen his mistress come to our house and heard him yelling at me and the kid. She knows what I've been putting up with. She's been my confidant through all this.
I see. I guess it's hard to talk to your in-laws about these things.
I'm sorry.
But don't worry. We understand everything now. We're on your side, Rachel. Really? Of course. You're raising our grandchild and working hard. And he acts like a king at home and plays around with other women? Unforgivable. We're definitely on your side.
My mother-in-law said this, gripping my hand. My father-in-law nodded, don't worry. We'll take care of the grandchild at our place for a while. You just focus on getting better. Tears streamed down my face out of gratitude. 2 days later, Simon returned from his trip, triumphant. When he rang the doorbell and I didn't come out as usual, he got annoyed and used his key to enter.
Hey! I'm home, and you don't come to greet me?
But his voice just echoed in the empty house. Wondering why it wasn't being absorbed by the usual furniture, he looked around and found everything gone.
What? What's going on? Why is everything missing?
Shocked, he pulled out his phone and called me. Hey. Realizing it was a call from my husband, I gripped my smartphone with trembling hands.
Hey! Where are you? I'm home and you're not here. Where are you loafing around?
I'm at the hospital.
The hospital? Why are you there? Come home now.
I can't.
Why?
I'm hospitalized.
Hospitalized? Who is?
Me.
Why are you in the hospital? If you have time to be there, you should be home cooking.
But I was told to stay hospitalized.
You don't need to be in the hospital for something useless like that. What's the reason?
Overwork.
Overwork? That's an exaggeration for just being tired.
Fool.
That's something you can recover from at home. A waste of hospital fees. You should be home doing your duties. Just great, the moment I'm gone, you think of relaxing. Tiredness is for those who actually work. Your part-time job is just playtime.
I was shaking, scared, holding the phone. But
shut up. Don't talk back to me. Because of your lounging, our house got burglarized.
Burglarized?
Yes, they took everything. My sofa, my bed, my clothes. What are you gonna do about it?
His ranting reached my in-laws' ears through the phone speaker. Unbeknownst to him, he was just spewing his usual venom at me. But even so, nobody would want to listen to such behavior from a husband. I looked at my mother-in-law, thinking they wouldn't want to hear this. But she nodded strongly, say what you want to say. We're with you.
That's not a burglary. What? You think a burglar would take everything like that?
No way.
What do you mean? I moved everything to a different place. Why?
I'm moving out.
What? Why? I didn't hear about this. Well, you were on your affair trip when I decided. I've sent all your stuff to your mistress's place. What do you mean, her place?
No need to pretend anymore.
I've known all along. I don't have a mistress.
You said you were on a trip with her, didn't you?
You never took me or our daughter on a trip. That's a misunderstanding. I can't possibly have a mistress. It's not a misunderstanding. I had a detective investigate it. When?
During your trip.
It only took a day to confirm your affair. The woman is your junior at work, right? You're renting her apartment. That's why your paycheck has been so small. That's not true. You're misunderstanding. You should believe me over some detective's findings.
You always say that.
Remember the woman you brought home, saying she's just a colleague?
She's the one, right?
You were pretty cozy with her, both at home and outside. The neighbors know about it. That's just her coming on to me. I never reciprocated. Oh, really? You think that excuse will fly? What's wrong with you? You never talk like this.
Until now, you always forced me into submission, telling me to keep the kid quiet.
Because of you, I've spent hours wandering outside, enduring so much. And to think you were pampering another woman, giving her an apartment and living expenses, while barely giving me $2,000 for household expenses. That's a lie. You can't find out all that in one day. I didn't find out everything in one day. I found evidence while clearing out your stuff. I've been working part-time, struggling to support us. That's what a wife is supposed to do. Really? So a family should just put up with a cramped apartment while you lavish another woman? That's not right. It's all in your head. Is it? Then what's this? I showed him a photo. It was a lease agreement. This isn't our apartment, is it? You're paying $3,000 a month for her. You treat me like a maid while giving her all this. What was I to you all this time? You're misunderstanding. I found out about your trip's destination while cleaning. I know her name now. And a detective has photos of how you spent these past few days. Modern detectives are really skilled, you know. I'm telling you, you're wrong. Why don't you believe me? How can I? I suspected the affair, but never imagined it was this blatant. And to think I've been working so hard for you, it's humiliating. So what? It's your fault I'm cheating. Excuse me? You don't listen to me. You're always focused on the kid, neglecting me. Before blaming me, realize your own faults. And how dare you investigate and then send my stuff to her place? I had been thinking the same. It might be inconvenient for her, receiving my stuff so suddenly. Because of that feeling, I found myself at a loss for words. But my mother-in-law took over. It's your apartment, so what's wrong with sending stuff there? They're close enough to travel together, so it's fine. Mom, it's a spacious place. His stuff won't be a problem. Why is Mom here? While you were enjoying your affair trip, Rachel collapsed. The neighbor contacted your mom. We were shocked. Normally, a wife would contact her husband. We were even more surprised to learn you were on a trip with your mistress. Didn't think you were that foolish. Mom knows everything? Yes, I've heard all about your misdeeds. Damn it, Rachel, dragging Mom into this. Not just her. Dad knows too. Then who removed my stuff? Me. Why? Surprise. The apartment's actually owned by Dad. We don't want a son who makes his wife suffer living there. You have a $3,000 apartment, live there in style. If you send my stuff to her, she'll be shocked. That's not our concern. You didn't think about your wife's struggles, cheating, and treating your family harshly. Just getting rid of your stuff isn't enough to settle my stomach. Where's our stuff then? At our family home. Then I'll go there too. No use. A foolish son like you will be turned away. But my daughter will miss me. I'm her father. A father who leaves his child and wife in a remote town? When? When you left them during a drive because the kid was crying. That was. And you've kicked them out at night, even in the cold, rain, and snow. How heartless. I was tired. You're tired? Rachel's just as tired, if not more. Yeah, right, more like it. Yes, indeed. Rachel's life is tens, hundreds of times harder. Why's that? She works part-time, then comes home to care for our child, clean, do laundry, shop, and cook. She does it all alone, including taking care of you. Even when the remote's right in front of you, she has to change the channel for you. How foolish can you be? I'm just a traditional husband. Traditional? More like a tyrant. You wouldn't understand, Mom. You say you're a father, but you hardly ever come home. Our child doesn't even remember your face. She doesn't recognize you in photos. That's a lie. At daycare, when asked to draw her dad, she just drew a circle with no face. To her, you might as well not exist. What a brat! She's as dumb as her mother. Stop insulting the child. Kids are honest. She just drew what she saw. A father who's never home might as well be invisible. I am home. Only late at night or early morning, just to change clothes. You hardly ever see or talk to her. Where am I supposed to go then?
To your mistress's place, maybe?
What are you saying? We're married.
Married? You hardly act like it. I don't remember any time we lived like a real married couple. To you, I'm just a housekeeper, aren't I? Yeah, that's right. You're a housekeeper. I've never seen you as a woman. Just listen to me and keep being a housekeeper. Is that so? Well, with that mindset, I can't stay with you. That's why I left one last gift in the house. Last gift? There's nothing there. Check the dining table. He went to the kitchen and found it.
What's this?
A divorce paper.
I can see that. Why a divorce paper?
Because I have no confidence in continuing with you.
You don't need confidence to stay together.
Why stay married if I'm just treated as a housekeeper? I might as well work as one.
What?
It's more beneficial. No need to think much, no harsh words from you or being treated as a nuisance. You think you can survive alone? Foolish woman. You can't live without my income. I've only been getting around $2,000 a month from you, not much different. There's no value or meaning in staying married to you.
What? You think I'm just a cash cow?
A cash cow would be more valuable. But you're not even that. Claiming I'm just a housekeeper, that's absurd.
Hey, Simon. Oh, Dad. You were here too?
Yes, I've heard everything.
Everyone's listening?
Yes.
Didn't think you were such a tyrant. I couldn't believe it when Rachel told me, but this call clarified everything. You need to leave that place today. Why?
The remodelers are coming tomorrow.
Why?
It's sold.
What? Why would you sell it?
You have another apartment. No need for Dad's. That's why it's sold. No problem.
That leaves me with nowhere to live.
Go to your mistress's. I'm not lending you anything anymore.
You're choosing her over your own son?
Yes, she's more deserving. I can't side with a man who treats a woman like that.
That's unbelievable.
No, I'm devoted to Mom. I don't understand your feelings at all.
Hey, Rachel.
Yes?
Thinking of divorcing, how foolish.
I've endured enough. It's only natural.
How can you say that? Involving my family too.
I've wasted enough precious time for you. I've thought about divorce many times.
I've never heard that.
Of course, you haven't. I kept telling myself not to take a father away from her child.
But in the end, you're taking her father away.
Yes, but your mom said it's not good for a child to see her mother sad every day. It's better to start a new life. That's why I've made this decision. I'm grateful for such a wonderful mother-in-law. You'll regret this. Will I? Of course. Losing a husband like me. You'll have to do everything alone. I've been doing it all alone up until now. When our daughter had a fever, when I called an ambulance in the middle of the night, even when I was sick, I always managed on my own. You never once helped or consulted with me. Whenever I said I felt unwell, you would just go out, saying it's not just me. Thanks to that, I've become stronger.
What?
To tell you the truth, I always thought I couldn't do it alone because of my weak body and frequent hospital visits. But being treated harshly by you and striving for our child, I've become physically stronger. It's true that adversity makes people stronger. I'm thankful for that at least.
Damn it!
So, from now on, I won't be your housekeeper but will work as one professionally while raising our daughter. And your parents are supporting me in this.
What? My parents?
Yes, they said you have your mistress, so you don't need parents anymore. But I'm going to have a tough time alone. They've offered to help me. That's great. I'm happy to help Rachel. I've always wanted to get along with her, but couldn't, which made me sad. Now I can see my grandchild every day. I'd even like to live with Rachel. That's a good idea.
Then we can take care of our grandchild when Rachel is working. Mom always has the best ideas. So, Simon, just sign the divorce papers quickly.
What? You two are choosing her over me. I can't believe this.
Oh, and another unbelievable thing for you.
What?
Simon, you'll be sued for alimony.
Huh?
Also, child support. Pay it regularly until our grandchild graduates college. If you don't, we'll garnish your wages.
What? You'll go that far?
Of course. Rachel is a single woman raising a child. The least you can do is pay child support. After all, that child is yours.
Fine, I get it. I won't divorce. If I don't divorce, I don't have to pay alimony or child support. If we're separated, I can still have my freedom with other women. Perfect.
You're so foolish. You don't know anything.
What do you mean?
If you don't provide living expenses and cheat, that's grounds for divorce. That means we can settle it in court. Are you okay with the legal fees?
Why? No matter what, you're planning to divorce and get child support?
Of course. We must take what we can from a woman's enemy like you.
I'm your son.
Even if you are, there are right and wrong things to do. You cheated and made Rachel suffer. Now it's your turn to suffer.
At least let me live at the family home. I'm giving my mistress $3,000 a month. I have no money.
That's not our problem.
No way.
And one more thing.
There's more?
We told her about the divorce.
Why?
She probably wants to marry you, right? But when we told her, she said she wouldn't marry you.
That's because she and I aren't like that.
It doesn't matter what your relationship is with her. If you stop giving her $2,000 a month, she'll be happy. More money for her. Quite clever.
If that happens, I can't pay child support.
That's not our concern. What she plans to do with your money is her business. Anyway, be happy. My mother-in-law said this and hung up. After that, Simon has been paying child support monthly. If he doesn't pay, we really garnish his wages. He tried to marry his mistress. But she left him, leaving the bill in the apartment. Apparently, she berated him for being broke. No interest in a man without money, she said. Simon tried to act tough, but it didn't end there. The mistress spread rumors about him at work, leading him to a dead-end job and a pay cut. With his reduced salary, Simon struggled with child support, so we really did garnish his wages. Now he pays $1,000 monthly. Thanks to that, Simon lives alone in his large apartment. Meanwhile, I moved out of my in-laws' place and started living in my parents' house. I sometimes visit my in-laws to show them their grandchild, and they adore her. Despite being treated as a housekeeper in the past, I'm grateful for having my child. Now, I'm truly happy.
Get out of here, you fake mother.
The words blindsided me, leaving me utterly shocked. After 13 years of loving Sophia as my own daughter, hearing such words from her seemed inevitable, yet it stung. Her desperate expression and the way she pointed at me made it clear she wanted nothing more than for me to leave. Seeing that look on her face, I couldn't even ask why. I decided to silently comply and leave. Dodging the concerned glances of those around me, I walked away slowly. I found a bench just outside the venue and sat down quietly. Mulling over the words Sophia had hurled at me, my shoulders slumped in defeat. How had it come to this? Reflecting deeply, I realized I hadn't been there for her when it truly mattered. Since I'm not her biological mother, Sophia's words were justified. As I was about to give up hope, a jolt of shock went through me. Just as I was about to turn around, thinking something had happened, I heard Sophia's voice, on the verge of tears.
Sorry. The truth is.
The shocking revelation that followed left me at a loss for words. My name is Amelia Smith, a 48-year-old CEO. I have a daughter named Sophia, though she is not my biological child. When I married her father, Ethan, who had been her sole parent, Sophia became my daughter. I met Ethan when I was still an employee.
One day after work, as I was doing some grocery shopping, I came across someone who had dropped their wallet. It was Ethan, and I quickly picked it up and called out to him. "Excuse me, you dropped your wallet."
"Ah, yes. Thank you so much."
He took it back from me with a genuine smile and invited me for tea as a thanks. Despite holding my shopping bags, I was charmed by his smile and nodded in agreement. Surprisingly, our time over tea flew by, and it felt wonderful. Ethan, suddenly aware of the time, hurriedly prepared to leave. "Sorry for holding you up. My daughter is waiting for me, so I need to go. But, if it's all right with you, I'd love to chat again." With that, he scribbled his contact information from his planner and left in a rush. As I chuckled to myself about the whirlwind encounter and paid for my groceries, I realized Ethan had already taken care of the bill. It was a memorable way to begin our relationship. After several dates, I got to know more about Ethan. He was a single father. His previous marriage ended because his wife fell ill. He worked tirelessly to provide for Sophia, who was 10 at the time. As I learned more about his life, I found myself drawn to him, and he felt the same way about me. As our relationship deepened, Ethan proposed, and I immediately accepted. However, there were several concerns for me to consider. I had quit my job to pursue a lifelong dream. At the beginning of our relationship, it was the only stable aspect of my life. Ethan, knowing this, still chose to propose to me. During our time together, I would sometimes play with Sophia. She was a bright and energetic girl who thoroughly enjoyed our playtimes. She often hugged me spontaneously, clinging to me fondly. Sophia was outspoken and prone to surprising comments. "Hey, Amelia, when are you and Dad gonna get married?" Out of the blue, Sophia's comment had us staring at each other in surprise. Though I accepted a marriage proposal after such an event, there were naturally obstacles. It was when I had gone to report to my parents about the marriage by myself before greeting them with Ethan. Originally, Ethan was supposed to come with me to say hello, but he ended up having to go on a business trip at the last minute and couldn't make it. Having no other option, I tried to reschedule, but he insisted that I should go first alone. "I'm really sorry. If you go and greet them once on your own, I think it will go more smoothly when I accompany you the next time. So, I hate to ask, but please send my regards to your parents." At the time, I didn't think much of it, but I was strongly opposed at that point. I was unilaterally scolded and my parents were indignant, calling Ethan insincere. However, I understand why my parents were worried. I had just started a dream company of mine, and my income wasn't stable yet. Moreover, while this was my first marriage, Ethan was divorced. And the fact that he had a child meant that their concern was quite predictable. Yet, I was able to convince my parents and somehow got their understanding. When we went for the marriage greeting again, my parents welcomed us warmly. They were my parents, who truly wished for my happiness. A few years had passed since our marriage. Although Sophia was included and the three of us spent such fun times together, things gradually started to fall apart. The cause was on me, but it still made me feel lonely. My work, thankfully, had been going well since I married Ethan. But due to that, I became busy, and when I got home, I was just barely managing to finish the chores. I couldn't create time for Sophia, and maybe that's why we've grown apart emotionally. If so, at least I wish Ethan could make time for Sophia, but I couldn't bring myself to insist on it. I know that Ethan is busy with work as well, and it just doesn't sit right with me to leave everything to him and set myself aside. I tried asking Ethan, but I just got a frown and a lecture. "I'm worried about Sophia, too, you know? But work is busy, and you understand that, right?" It felt like he was telling me not to blame myself too much, and that made me a bit miffed. This became the cause of a fight, and I was aware that our marital relationship had cooled down. However, instead of fixing it, I escaped into my work. Plus, with Sophia now being in junior high and squarely in the midst of puberty, she wasn't at home often, and the crucial me being absent created a distance between us. When I wake up and say hello in the morning, I get nothing more than a light nod,
and I haven't heard her voice for a long time. When she leaves for school, I say, "Have a good day," but she just smiles ambiguously and doesn't respond. By the time Sophia gets home, I'm off to work, and dinner is just something made ahead that she heats up. Moreover, Ethan works late too, so Sophia is probably eating alone. Since I've let such a lifestyle go on, it's only natural that distance has grown between us, given we aren't biologically related. Before marrying Ethan, we used to have such fun times, but now they're almost non-existent. Ethan, despite being Sophia's biological dad, seems disinterested and his responses are curt. About my own work and Ethan's work. I've tried discussing how Sophia might be sad about my business demands and Ethan's work situation, but I only get laughter in response. And still, he comes home late from work and doesn't try to engage with anything at home or with Sophia. Thinking it's not good for Sophia for this to continue, I tried my best to make time for her. To reduce the time I spent at the company, I even tried bringing work home. If there was a school event, I tried to adjust my work schedule to make myself available. Sadly, unexpected appointments or unavoidably important tasks meant that things didn't always go as planned. Maybe Sophia too grew tired of my attempts. The emotional distance that was already there might have widened further. Now, she leaves for school while I'm still getting ready in the morning, and at night, she returns to her room before I get back. She began avoiding me, so I couldn't be involved in things like parent-teacher meeting, school festivals, or her graduation ceremonies. It stayed this way even as Sophia became a high schooler. By the time my company settled down, Sophia was already in college and about ready to graduate. During those disheartening times, finally, as Sophia was graduating from college, she approached me on her own accord. "Mom, I have something I want to talk to you about." Hearing Sophia's voice after such a long time nearly moved me to tears. However, I couldn't listen to her story if I was crying, so I mustered a smile and faced her. "What's up, sweetie? You know you can tell me anything about what's going on with you." Despite everything that happened before and knowing that her trust might be shaky, I wanted to do anything for Sophia's sake. While I was half excited and half scared about what she would say next, Sophia dropped a bombshell. "Mom, I want to get married. There's someone I love." I felt as if time had stopped. I certainly wasn't expecting to hear such news. Even though I knew Sophia was at that age, the thought of her having a boyfriend had never crossed my mind. I was totally unprepared for marriage talks instead of simply hearing about a boyfriend. Seeing the worried look on Sophia's face brought me back to reality, and from there, we had a long, deep conversation. I caught up on all the things I hadn't been able to hear before, all the memories Sophia could recall. I listened intently to her hardships, as well as the happy and joyful things she experienced. After hearing everything, even about her fiancé, I eagerly offered to help out. "Sophia, let me help you since I haven't been able to do much up until now. Is the venue for the wedding decided? Do you have a place to live after the wedding? Tell me if there's anything you're unsure about or anxious over. I'll make sure it's a wonderful ceremony." When I said this, Sophia broke down in tears. Embracing Sophia as she nodded repeatedly through her tears, I conveyed my sincerest congratulations from the bottom of my heart. From that point on, I was busier than when I had started my company. I juggled work while helping with the wedding preparations, and I even met her fiancé at her introduction. The fiancé seemed like a very sincere and kind person, and upon first sight, I felt a deep sense of relief. I thought that he would love Sophia abundantly, making up for the times she felt lonely. As the preparations progressed, I learned that there was supposed to be a family introduction. But it seemed that it was called off, and I never got the chance to greet the fiancé's parents. However, I didn't worry too much since I assumed we would meet properly on the wedding day. On the day of the wedding, I had some unavoidable work and arrived late to the venue, only to be told I was not allowed in as I was an outsider. Protesting desperately, I claimed to be the mother of the bride, Sophia. However, they told me that her mother was already there, and I was left utterly confused. Just when I thought I'd be turned away at the door, Sophia,
dressed in the gown we had chosen together, ran up to me. Just as I thought I would finally be let in, a shocking statement hit my ears.
"Fake mother, leave immediately."
Stunned by those words suddenly thrown at me, I realized it was not surprising. Sophia, whom I had cherished as my own daughter for 13 years, was telling me this. It was inevitable. Seeing Sophia's desperate expression, pointing at me, indicating she wanted me out no matter what, I resolved to silently comply without asking for a reason. Navigating through the sympathetic gazes of the bystanders, I slowly left the scene. Feeling utterly shocked, I walked on shaky legs until I found myself outside the premises of the wedding venue. How I got there was a blur, but more pressing was the feeling of utter desolation. My spine was cold, my mood was heavy, sweat broke out, and I felt miserable. With these feelings weighing me down, I found a bench and decided to take a rest. Until not long ago, it felt like all the past was a lie, and I had been spending time with Sophia. And I had thought I was finally going to be part of a significant event in Sophia's life. The words "fake mother" that Sophia hurled at me were stuck in my head and wouldn't budge. Indeed, I wasn't Sophia's real mother. A distance had grown between us since middle school, and I had used work as an excuse not to get deeply involved. Was it because we had misunderstood each other for so long? Sophia had approached me upon her marriage, and I wondered where I had gone wrong. Sitting on the bench, these thoughts went around and around in my head. There was still time before Sophia's ceremony began. Should I try to talk to her again? Or is it better to just go home now? I'd love to catch a glimpse of Sophia, even from a distance, just to see her looking happy and smiling. But maybe that's not going to happen. From a little ways off, I could hear the sound of a bus. Looking around, I realized that the bench I was sitting on was at a bus stop. Perfect. I'll just get on this bus and head home. Just as I was about to stand up, a jolt went through my back. Turning around, thinking something had happened, I heard Sophia's voice, sounding like she was about to cry.
"I'm sorry. Actually..."
The shocking truth I heard next left me speechless for a while. "I'm really sorry about earlier. I wasn't planning on saying anything, but when I saw your face, I just couldn't hold it in. It'll be a bit long, but can you hear me out?" "Of course, sweetheart. You've been holding it in for so long. I'm so sorry I didn't notice. Please, tell me everything." As I said this, Sophia started to speak slowly. What she told me was just as shocking as the words she'd said before, and all I could do was listen. The first thing she talked about was the meeting of both families that had been cancelled. Initially, she'd been told they would inform her when it was scheduled, but it ended up not happening. However, apparently, the meeting did happen, and Sophia was waiting with her fiancé's family for us. Ethan arrived a bit late and brought with him a woman who looked familiar. It turned out to be Amiri, his ex-wife, and naturally, both Sophia and her fiancé were very surprised. But Ethan hurried through the meeting, and before they knew it, it was over. It seems that the fiancé's parents recognized Amiri as the mother, and things continued unresolved until today. In addition, Sophia told me other astonishing things about Ethan. They used to live as a family of 3, but Amiri incurred debts, making their life difficult. Unable to endure such a life, Ethan divorced Amiri, taking Sophia with him. Unable to make ends meet on his own, he wanted to find someone who could financially support Sophia. That person turned out to be me. However, soon after marrying me, Ethan began dating Amiri again behind my back. Then I was busy with the new company. At that time, Sophia, being only 10, didn't understand the situation. But as she grew into her teens, she became aware of the truth and felt terribly guilty. She was distant because she couldn't find the courage to tell me what was going on. Sophia apologized, crying, and explained much more. I couldn't catch up with my head, but I couldn't help feeling sorry for Sophia, who had been feeling crushed until now. Thinking about how Sophia suffered because of the selfish actions of Ethan and Amiri made me incredibly angry. Why should Sophia have to suffer so much instead of them? When I thought of that, I felt very painful. When she finished, I decided to accept everything for now. It's not that I had no thoughts on the matter, but those weren't directed at Sophia. If I vented now, that would only make Sophia blame herself even more. I cupped Sophia's tear-streaked cheeks in my hands and smiled warmly at her.
I'm sorry for not realizing anything until now. But I'm really glad you told me. Thank you for trusting me despite the pain you've been through.
At my words, Sophia's eyes welled up and she started to cry uncontrollably. The bus had left without us, and I held Sophia gently, waiting for her tears to abate. When she finally calmed down, I asked her one question. Sophia, why did you say those things to me at that time?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. Hey, calm down, okay? I'm not blaming you. I heard everything you just told me, but I was just wondering why you said what you did.
Hearing this, Sophia seemed relieved and took a deep breath. But then her face hardened, and she shared the true intent behind her words at that time. Like at the family meeting, she was at the venue before you, Mom. She's not my mother anymore, but acts like she owns the place, so nobody questions her. It's partly my fault, but you didn't know about the meeting, and I didn't want you to see her. I panicked. I chose the worst possible way to handle it. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. It's okay, I'm not angry.
I replied, soothing Sophia with a gentle stroke on her back. Even though today should be a day of celebration, I couldn't forgive Ethan and Amiri for putting my daughter through this. While suppressing the anger welling within me, I made sure Sophia got to the dressing room. I checked the time on my smartphone, and there was still a while before the ceremony started. Sophia would have time to stop crying and reapply her makeup. Her dress might have gotten a bit dirty, but it would be cleaned in no time. Right now, my focus was on dealing with Ethan and Amiri, who were likely looking forward to enjoying the wedding at the venue. I was filled with those thoughts. As I was considering what to do about the two, it seemed that the ceremony had ended. The reception was about to start, and I thought this was my chance, so I made my way into the venue. Earlier, when I had dropped Sophia off at the dressing room, I made sure the venue staff understood I was the real mother. This time I was let in without dispute. Upon entering, I saw Ethan and who I assumed was Amiri and started walking towards them. Noticing me, Ethan went pale and hurried over.
What's going on? You're late. The ceremony is already over. Was work holding you up? You could have at least called. Isn't there something else you should be saying? Of course, I'd also like to know why a stranger is sitting in the seat reserved for the bride's parents.
I said, my voice tense at Ethan's clumsy words, loud enough for the groom's parents and the entire venue to hear. The murmurs began, and people started glancing over curiously. With their attention, I explained the situation to the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today at my daughter's wedding reception. But as you've overheard, that woman making herself comfortable is no longer Sophia's mother. She is actually Ethan's ex-wife from 13 years ago, and she is still involved with my husband. And terrifyingly, I was nearly prevented from witnessing my daughter's happiest day. The room erupted in murmurs. Now the gazes turned to Ethan and Amiri, who began to stammer a defense.
That's nonsense. I was waiting for you to come. But since you weren't showing up, I didn't think it was right to have the mother's seat empty, so I asked her. That's all. Yeah, that's right. If you claim to be her mother, why haven't you shown your face until now? They say you're busy with work. How could you not make time for your own daughter's big day?
Amiri joined in, eliciting more noise from the crowd. This probably made them think that I'd neglected my daughter for work. But I had my say. Unfortunately, my work ended before the ceremony began. It's my daughter's big day, of course I'd planned to be on time. But when I arrived at the venue, I was almost turned away at the gate. What was the reason again? Oh right, they said the mother had already arrived, asking who I was exactly. You impersonated Sophia's mother to keep me out, didn't you?
You didn't show up. I was just asked to pretend to be the mother. It's not my fault.
Amiri protested, which was my cue to argue further, but then the doors burst open, and Sophia strode in with forceful steps.
Stop lying. The one telling lies here is you. Don't ruin my wedding any further.
The room buzzed at Sophia's declaration. She stood firmly in front of me, then turned to face Ithany and Amiri.
You divorced my dad when I was 10. You hadn't shown your face once since then, but then you casually showed up at the family meeting. Why did you tell my future in-laws that you are my mother?
Sophia then turned to apologize to her in-laws.
I'm terribly sorry for being silent till now. To take responsibility for everything, the engagement will be annulled. And I assure you, any expenses will be fully reimbursed. Please forgive us. Wait a minute, you're calling off the wedding? Don't make such a decision lightly, Sophia.
Ithany, suddenly arguing against the cancellation, appeared genuinely fretful. Even Amiri was nodding seriously beside him. Looking at Sophia's face for clarity, even she seemed confused and distressed.
Your fiancé is wealthy, isn't he? This means we can benefit too, right? Then, your real mother can pay off her debts and come back. Isn't that a dream come true?
The crowd's frowns deepened at Ithany's justification. Was this his plan all along, marrying me for financial gain? No, Sophia chose her own partner, so it couldn't have been the plan from the start. But his participation with Amiri in the family meeting under the pretense that she was the mother meant exactly that. If they convinced the in-laws that Amiri was the mother, they might be persuaded to offer financial help. They were probably aiming for such an outcome with their actions, but blurting it out here, what were they thinking? It seemed Amiri had the same thought and, in a panic, she began yanking on Ithany's arm and scolding him. I couldn't hear what she said, but Ithany instantly paled, covering his mouth and looking back at us. But it was too late to put on an act. The in-laws were furious. What ensued was a heated argument between Ithany, Amiri, and the in-laws.
I'm her real mother. I'm the one who bore her and brought her into this world.
Her claim was countered by the mother-in-law. She doesn't have your temperament, which is probably for the best since her upbringing was superior.
She is my child. Amelia has been too busy with her work to bother much with Sophia.
Sophia immediately retorted. I've been avoiding you because I felt so guilty about how shamefully you were behaving, Dad. I consider Amelia my real mom, and I don't want to claim you, pointing at Amiri, as my mother. She said this with a definitive shake of her head, pointing her finger at Amiri with clear disdain. This prompted Sophia's prospective father-in-law to interject.
We don't want to be relatives with someone who's just after our money for a wedding.
He spoke with a sharp tone, to which Amiri replied defiantly.
When I introduced myself as her real mother, you accepted it. Therefore, there's nothing wrong, and my claim stands.
She said I need the money to pay off debts. The groom then erupted in anger, his face becoming stern. I only want to be with Sophia. I can't manage the burden of both of you. The situation was getting out of hand until the mother-in-law put an end to it. We will call off the wedding immediately.
This matter is settled, let's disperse.
She declared definitively, leaving us no room to argue, and we had no choice but to comply. Defying Ithany's desperate attempts to cling on, the groom's family returned to the dressing room. Ithany and his group, left behind, glared at me resentfully.
I can't do anything about those looks. You deceived not just me but many others, focusing only on yourselves. As a result, you've caused Sophia nothing but pain, and this consequence is only to be expected.
I told Ithany and Amiri before taking Sophia by the hand to apologize to the groom's family. Upon reaching the dressing room, the groom's family greeted us with evident anger. However, after Sophia and I sincerely apologized, they turned to listen to our side of the story. Thankful, Sophia and I recounted everything, apologizing again. They understood and even sympathized with us. They decided not to leave things as they were and gave Ithany and his group one last chance. Settling matters in the heat of the moment wouldn't be constructive. Although what Sophia and I had said was true, we had another round of listening to Ethan's claims. Shortly after that, we managed, with a little persuasion, to have the venue staff set up a meeting to discuss the issue. The groom's family had said they'd like a calm discussion, but once faced with Ethan and his group, they were uncompromising. First, they asked Ethan to clarify his previous statements, which he had to do. Ethan thanked this as an opportunity and started talking about something different from what he had said earlier, which made things difficult. Admittedly, Amelia has taken good care of Sophia, but surely it's better for her to be with her real mother. If Sophia marries your son, her life will be stable, and then we can use the money to pay back Amiri's debts. The thing is, you mentioned earlier about benefiting from us. Was that your intention, to make use of Sophia to get us to pay for the debts? You're now contradicting yourself. You're just trying to sweet-talk us. Are we right to understand it that way? The in-laws pressed, and Ethan, unable to reply, received a scolding in silence. When Amiri was asked to explain her previous outburst, she also twisted her story. Indeed, I have debts, but it's for medical bills. I have never gambled, please believe that. So if Sophia marries your son, I can repay what I owe, that was my thought. With both Ethan and Amiri saying these things, it was pretty clear they were trying to ingratiate themselves. The in-laws, having given them a chance, were now sitting with furrowed brows in silence. However, Amiri seemed to misinterpret this as an opportunity and continued with her self-centered narrative. I had tried to stay out of it, but her claims were just too self-absorbed to remain silent. My debts aren't because of gambling. I fell ill shortly after giving birth to Sophia. My health declined rapidly, which led to an extended hospital stay. Of course, medical bills piled up, and I had to raise Sophia. It was incredibly difficult. Why didn't you ask your parents for help if the debt was for postnatal medical expenses? Isn't it common to seek assistance from your own family rather than expecting help from your in-laws, like you're dealing with easy marks just waiting to be taken advantage of? I blurted out, unable to hold back, and Amiri's face contorted with anger. Unfortunately, her argument about the debt being for medical expenses didn't stand a chance. Sophia had confided in me that her debts were from gambling and splurging on designer goods. Even if she could deceive the groom's family, I wasn't about to let that stand. Just as Amiri shot me a withering glare, the mother-in-law stood up, clearly done with the discussion. It's time to put an end to this argument. As for what happens now, you'll be taking care of the wedding expenses that have been incurred. Upon hearing this, Amiri immediately turned to me, jerking her chin defiantly toward the mother-in-law and blurted out. See, you're supposed to bear the costs. It was you who messed up the wedding, so you should pay. It's not my fault. I was just asked to do it. The self-serving claims continued from Amiri, and now it was the groom who lost his temper. Amelia did nothing wrong. In fact, she's an important person whom we will respect if we're to marry again. Sophia and I were dumbfounded, exchanging glances before looking to the groom's family. They responded by giving us a wink and a warm smile, unlike Amiri, who was none too pleased. Ethan, raising his head with a hint of greed. Perhaps Amelia can remain as Sophia's mother, but I am, and will always be, her father. It's only natural that I'm included in the family too. I simply shook my head slowly at Ethan's outburst. To his puzzled expression, I firmly declared, "Don't just say what suits you. Did you think I wouldn't take action? I'm going to file for divorce. And if you really dislike that idea that much, then we'll involve our attorneys and settle it formally." As soon as these words left my mouth, Ethan's energy deflated, and he fell silent. Not wanting to miss this chance, the mother-in-law promptly added her bit. If Amelia insists on this course of action, then we as well will take legal action against Amiri. Amiri, now truly outmatched, silently nodded in acceptance of the mother-in-law's claim. But we weren't going to settle for mere verbal promises. Written contracts were drawn up for each party. Reluctantly compliant, Ethan and Amiri watched our interactions in silence until the end. and with the conclusion of firm boundaries being set, the gathering disbanded. I got home before Ethan and hurried to pack up. Fortunately, having a car meant I could just stuff it with whatever I could for the moment. Then, before Ethan returned, I left the house and drove. I head straight to the government office, get divorce papers, and look for a lawyer's office. I quickly found a reliable attorney and decided to consult with them. With the divorce papers half written, I left them with the lawyer, blocked Ethan's number. I wrote him a letter stating to contact me through the attorney from now on, which I sent along with the papers. Although it took some time, the signed divorce papers eventually made their way back to me. Ethan's section was duly filled in, and all that was left was for me to submit them to the city hall. The lawyer told me it was quite a struggle to get to this point. Ethan had vigorously protested, repeatedly trying to see me and causing quite a bother at the firm. Thanks to the lawyer's patient persuasion, however, Ethan finally relented and signed the documents. Through this process, Ethan's parents, my former in-laws, were informed of the situation. He was then disowned by them and told not to return home. Despite having a wedding bill to pay off, Ethan had indeed fallen on hard times. As for Amiri, of course, she was charged with the wedding costs by the groom's family. My claim for alimony made her situation even more precarious. She had been working part-time, but it wasn't enough to cover her repayments. The necessity to juggle multiple jobs meant that she now had no time for gambling. From my perspective, it seemed like a positive development, but for Amiri, it was a living nightmare. She looked quite worn out, but that was none of my concern. With all the hustle and bustle, finding a new place had been put on the back burner, but then Sophia called. She had arranged a place to stay until I found a new home. It might feel a bit cramped, but I was about to move in with Sophia and her fiancé at their place. I bought some housewarming gifts and made my way to meet them. Everything progressed smoothly from there, and I was able to divorce Ethan successfully. Despite the upheaval, work and Sophia's upcoming marriage were all going well, and we were now preparing for the wedding once again. I never expected to plan 2 weddings because of this turn of events, but someday, I'm sure we'll look back on this and laugh. Hoping for that to happen, I worked hard at work and wished for Sophia's happiness. My name is Emily, I'm 32 years old. My common-law partner, Simon, is 4 years younger, at 28. The relationship between me and Simon is complicated, and we've kept our common-law status a secret, with me acting as if I were the official wife. Smith family is a family of wealth that has built an era. However, in recent years, their wealth has dwindled, and Smith family was nearing its end. The one who saved them from this crisis was Simon's official wife, Julie Ortega, aged 38. Ortega family is of old noble blood. Smith family arranged a strategic marriage between Simon and Julie to rebuild themselves. As long as Julie is around, I know I can never truly be with Simon. Yet, I still love Simon, which is why I continue this unbelievable common-law relationship. Simon is a typical rich boy, doing whatever he pleases. Despite having Julie and me, he started dating a young mistress, Kelly. Kelly pretended to be a student in Simon's wine class and continued her illicit relationship with him. Simon exaggerated about being an heir to a fortune, sweet-talking Kelly, the mistress he stole from me and Julie. Kelly, smugly, provoked, "I'm building a $4 million villa in Aspen to nurture our love. Sorry for stealing your happiness." I, full of question marks, replied, "Who's building it? Surely not him. He doesn't have that kind of privilege or money." Confused, Kelly said, "Huh? Do you know his bank balance? It's $4. Plus, I'm not Simon's official wife. He has another official wife." It seems the time has come to tell the truth to Kelly, who knew nothing about Smith family's situation and believed Simon's tall tales. "What are you having?" Simon approached me at the wine bar I had casually entered. The bar was dimly lit, and I couldn't see his face clearly. "Is this your first time here? You're a new face." "Yes. You don't seem very happy. Something is bothering you?" I thought he was too forward for someone I just met. But I was almost in tears, longing for someone's warmth.
I was dumped by my boyfriend of 4 years.
Then, this wine, Simon said, pouring wine into my glass. Romeo and Juliet Bianca White. Here's to your next stroke of luck. I'm not well versed in wine, but I knew this one. It was too cheap. I was a bit annoyed that Simon thought I didn't know wine and was trying to impress me. But even this cheap wine felt like a warm embrace on this particular day. This is how Simon and I met, and I began visiting this wine bar more often, drawn to each other. I'd like to date you, Emily. His sudden confession also happened at this bar. But the way he said it made me curious.
You're older and such a wonderful person. I thought maybe you wouldn't consider someone like me. No way, Simon, you wouldn't choose an older woman like me. You're not an older woman. Negative thinking isn't good. I wish you'd have more confidence.
Simon seemed unusually angry as he said this, so I decided to stop teasing.
Emily, can you promise you won't hate the real me once you know? Well,
I was bewildered, not knowing what kind of bombshell was about to drop. Is this content really worth being so secretive about?
Actually, I'm married.
Huh?
Well, there's a deep reason for this.
Simon began to talk about his marriage. You found my marriage partner for me? What are you talking about? Julie from Ortega family? Isn't she much older than me? Why do I have to go through with an arranged marriage? A girlfriend? I don't have one right now. Are you trying to take advantage of that to push this forward? Smith family's crisis? I don't know anything about that. Oh, Ortega family used to be nobles? So what? Does the Smith family have no more assets? We can't live the same way we used to? That would be a problem. A marriage to maintain this lifestyle? Well, if that's the case. But still, I can't decide right away. What? Decide now? Marriage isn't something you just decide on the spot. Meet Julie once? Like a matchmaking meeting? Well, I'll meet her, but what if I refuse? The end of Smith family? That's so dramatic. Okay, I'll meet Julie. And that's how Simon and Julie met. Julie was 10 years older than Simon. She seemed plain and unremarkable. But her manners and speech revealed her good upbringing.
Let's have a fake marriage.
What?
I'm aware that there's no way Simon would marry a woman like me. But Smith family is now in debt, and my grandfather, who is an old acquaintance, wants to help. He proposed marriage to me as a condition because I'm still unmarried at my age. It's unpleasant, right? I understand. But please hear me out. We only need to be married on paper. Simon can date other women, and I won't interfere. You're free to love whoever you want. Our marriage is just between families. We don't need to share a bedroom, and we don't even have to live together. I don't think it's a bad deal for Simon.
Hearing this, I finally understood.
So, if I date Simon, it's with his wife's approval? But would Simon's family allow that? Actually, I'm not living with Julie right now. She's staying at her parents' house. It's fancier and bigger than mine. We just have dinner together twice a month at Smith House. My parents don't say anything. After all, they can live luxuriously without lowering their standard of living because I married Julie. That's all thanks to me, right? But that means I can never marry Simon, right? I'm thinking of dating someone with marriage in mind next time. Then it would have to be a common law marriage. But you'll be treated like my wife.
Tempted by these words, I decided on a common law marriage with Simon without going through a dating period. It feels like I jumped at the chance to be treated like a wife in every way except legally. I would later come to regret this decision.
There are a lot of students at today's wine class.
Yeah, I was featured in a magazine recently, remember? That's when the number of students suddenly increased. Simon's main job is a sommelier, but he doesn't work anywhere specific. He hosts wine parties once or twice a month and started a wine class at home this month. He's attracting fangirls. After the wine class, one student remained. She seemed to be helping clean up, so I approached to help.
This isn't a place for the wife. Please stay in the background and support Simon.
Then Simon appeared.
Emily, this is Kelly. I've hired her as my secretary.
A secretary? Looks like he's starting to act like a celebrity. Isn't it my mission to stop Simon from getting carried away and making a mistake?
Simon's fame has risen quickly, and with more work and fans, I'll manage everything properly.
Their vibe suggested they had already gone too far. I silently left the scene. This wasn't Simon's first affair. His naive nature means he falls for people easily. But he also cools off quickly, so these affairs don't last long. Yet he never learns and finds another lover.
Well, I've made it all the way to secretary.
After the wine class, Kelly stayed in the room. Unaware I could hear her talking on the phone with a friend.
I always get what I aim for. This time it's a huge hit. He's a rich heir, handsome, and a sommelier to boot. Yep, the in-demand Simon Smith. When I heard he was holding wine classes at his home, I signed up right away. There was a rush of applications, and it seems like many were turned down. I'm lucky, but I believe it's fate. You know, they say luck is part of skill. Those who didn't make the cut just weren't up to it. I'm a predator after all. My goal is to be a wife. His current wife doesn't even compare. Sure, she's pretty, but Simon is getting bored. Don't they say even beauty becomes boring after 3 days? She's like a decorative doll, not enough for Simon. That's why he's thrilled with our illicit love affair. For now, I may be the mistress, but I'll definitely seize the position of his official wife. Then Smith fortune will be mine.
Simon has no idea she thinks this way. He's such a naive rich boy, quick to trust people and not doubting them. Then Simon's mother, Olivia, arrived.
Oh, Kelly, you're still here?
Olivia. Yes, just helping with the cleanup. How did these two become so close? Kelly must be ingratiating herself with Olivia to gain an advantage. Olivia seems to like Kelly. Otherwise, she wouldn't talk to her so casually and with a smile. Olivia is a person of strong likes and dislikes, and she seems to dislike me a bit. She still doesn't quite know how to deal with me, someone in a delicate position. I became Simon's secretary, so I'm in charge of the details of this wine class. He's popular, after all.
It's helpful. Kelly, if you could support him. Simon can't do anything on his own. I suggested everything, the wine parties and classes. He won't make a move unless pushed. Even though he's in his 20s. I thought, with a sommelier's license, he should do something useful.
Simon's attachment to his mom is something, but Olivia's love for him can be excessive at times.
But, with a wife around, I feel like I'm overstepping. What are you talking about? The wife is useless. She doesn't seem to love Simon. Doesn't do housework, eats separately. Despite being older, she knows nothing. Well, she was raised as a lady, so she's clueless about the real world. As a wife, she's too detached.
At this point, I realized Olivia was talking about Julie, not me. Olivia dislikes Julie. It's clear in her attitude. Given Julie's personality, I doubt Olivia would ever like her. Olivia is social, often going out or traveling. The opposite of Julie.
Why not get a divorce? It doesn't seem like Simon is that affectionate. He'd be more comfortable with someone younger. Simon likes being pampered by older women but seems to be just going along with them. On the other hand, I think I can continuously stimulate Simon and make for an exciting relationship. If Olivia says something, I don't think Simon's divorce is that unlikely. If only a girl like Kelly could become our daughter-in-law. But our family has its own circumstances, so it can't happen right away. Rich families have their complexities. But let me be clear. I don't like Simon just because he's a rich heir. I genuinely want to be with him as a fellow wine lover. Just being near him makes me happy.
Her phone conversation was so different, I almost laughed. Kelly is clearly after wealthy Simon. Olivia being fooled by such an act is one thing, but what about me, in a common law marriage? I can't claim to be the wife, but I'm above a mistress. If Simon says it's over, I'd have to leave this house immediately. Our relationship is that fragile. Kelly, now with Olivia on her side, began her offensive against me. Simon said he's building a $4 million villa in Aspen for us to live together. After a wine class one day, Kelly bragged to me, finding me on purpose. We're going to nurture our love there. Sorry for stealing your happiness. Huh? What are you talking about? Who's building it? Surely not Simon. He doesn't have that kind of privilege or money. After all, his bank account has just $4. Plus, I'm not Simon's official wife. Simon has another official wife, you know? Maybe it's time to tell Kelly about Smith family's twisted relationships. Is Kelly my enemy, or is it Julie? I think you better understand the situation properly. If you're just going to say to break up with Simon without understanding, then you should leave. Are you scared? Scared of me saying that to you? You don't know how much Simon wants to leave his wife, do you? Simon tells me everything when he's with me. Mostly complaints about his wife. You should realize how much he dislikes you. You should realize you're just a fling to him. Huh? The bond between me and Simon isn't something weak. If it were just a fling, it would have ended in one night, right? But Simon and I are moving things forward behind the scenes. You, as his wife, are the only one who doesn't know. You're just a trophy wife. Just to look good beside him, it's such a bad deal. You approached Simon for his money, right? I can see through that. But you're just a mistress to him, and it's not going any further, so you're attacking me? That's pretty misguided, don't you think? I fired back, seeing right through Kelly's scheme. Kelly is still young and naive, not having experienced much of life's harsh realities. Don't you know how amazing your family home is? Isn't it you who is tied to Simon with money? Simon always says he feels like he's kept by money. He's enduring it for his family. It's not just Simon, Olivia is also putting up with a lot. How do you feel about that? Are you still happy? So, Kelly doesn't know about Smith family's situation. She thinks the wife Simon and Olivia complain about is not me, but Julie. But could it be just about Julie? Maybe, in the shadows, Simon and Olivia are also talking about me as part of the wife issue. Kelly, there's a big secret that Simon hasn't told you. May I explain it to you? You don't need to show off that you know more about Simon. I get it, you have secrets. Are you okay with staying in the dark? You just don't want to face reality, right? As soon as I said I'm not Simon's official wife, you tried to change the subject. Fine, tell me. I'll listen. Kelly finally showed a willingness to listen. But knowing Kelly, she might not be fazed even by the truth. Simon and I are in a common law marriage. We're not legally married. Simon has an official wife, Julie, whom he was forced to marry for political reasons. In a way, I'm just an approved mistress by his wife. So, our positions might not be so different. Julie, she doesn't live with him, right? I often come to Simon's house as his secretary, but I've never seen her. Julie lives at her family home. They just have dinner together about twice a month, playing pretend as a couple. I'll replace her then. Kelly took the bait. Not backing down, but planning to take Julie's place as the official wife. This is too good an opportunity to miss. Or, Emily, are you not giving up the official wife position? If that were the case, you could have acted sooner. That means you never really loved Simon, right? It's not that simple. First off, Kelly, does your family come from money? Smith family is on the decline, yet they can't afford to lower their lifestyle, so they're seeking financial assistance. I can imagine how much Simon has exaggerated. But you won't be able to live the wealthy life you're thinking of. I think I can handle that. Simon's in high demand now, right? He's got TV appearances lined up, and there's talk of him running his own wine bar.
Plus, he's handsome, so he's getting commercial offers too. Simon's making his own money. If that's the case, there's no need for Julie as the official wife anymore. So, Kelly's betting on Simon's sudden influx of money from his celebrity activities. I thought she was just a frivolous girl, but she's quite shrewd. A dangerous opponent. Not just Julie, but you too, Emily. So, Kelly sees both Julie and me as her enemies. Maybe I could have been more aggressive and won Simon over for myself. Instead, I've just been watching, not making any moves. Kelly seems far more serious about Simon. Then, unexpectedly, a guest arrived, and Kelly and I fell silent. I've been listening to your conversation. Sorry for eavesdropping. It was Julie. I haven't really looked at Julie properly before. When Julie comes to Smith House, I deliberately stay at a hotel. I didn't want to see her, and she probably didn't want to see me either. I know I'm not welcomed in Smith family from Simon's mother's attitude. Simon has also been enduring a lot. But I married Simon with a certain feeling, a feeling I could never tell him. Let me explain it now. Shouldn't we call Simon then? I've always felt a bit sorry that you couldn't talk to Simon about these things. No, please! I can never tell Simon. Then maybe you should keep it to yourself and take it to the grave. It doesn't seem like something worth making a big deal about. Kelly is quite blunt. Not just because she's young, but she seems irritated by a demure and graceful woman like Julie. Then, consider this my monologue. Simon and I have a 10-year age gap. The first time I saw Simon, he was 16, a freshman in high school, and I was 26, working at an art museum. Smith and my family have been friends for a long time. My grandfather and Simon's grandfather were social dancing buddies, close friends. I fell for Simon at first sight, seeing him on his way to school. But he was just a 16-year-old boy, and I, a 26-year-old adult, couldn't get involved. So, you fell for high schooler Simon at first sight? Your story's roundabout. Please get to the point. Yes, I'm sorry. My one-sided love continued. I thought I'd be content with just that. I've seen Simon with other women. I knew he'd never notice someone like me. Again, I don't need your feelings. How did you end up marrying Simon? You thought he'd never notice you. Julie's story is long, but it's full of feelings she's been holding back. Feelings she couldn't share with anyone, and now she wants us, his mistresses, to understand. Maybe she's hoping for some empathy? I heard Smith family was in trouble and wanted to help. My grandfather joked, if you marry my Julie, I'll help. I was 36 then, and he probably teased me. But I thought, that's it. I realized then, with money, even impossible dreams can come true. So, you married Simon for politics. Are you happy? You can't live together, can't have kids, or approve of his mistresses. Are you happy with that? I agreed with Kelly. Is it enough to be a wife in name only, unloved? Is that Julie's victory? I am happy. I felt a bit of sympathy for Julie with that single word. Julie, Emily, appealing to my emotions is useless. I will definitely marry Simon. I'm the woman who should be his official wife. Thanks for sharing your feelings, but as far as I'm concerned, so what? Emily, you're a bit crazy too, aren't you? Being an officially approved mistress, isn't that some weird fetish? I will never give up. What would Simon think about the ugly rivalry between the three women surrounding him? Maybe he just thinks it's a hassle to be so popular. To Simon, the official wife, mistresses, and common law marriage might all be the same. But at least Kelly and I were concerned about our relative importance. Although I'm in a common law marriage with Simon, he could easily break up with me any time. My real enemy is no longer Julie, it's Kelly. So, that's how it is, sorry. I had a bad feeling when Simon invited me to drink wine that night. It's not that I've come to hate you, Emily. It's just that I like Kelly a bit more. I wish all three of us could get along, but it's not possible. Why can't I be with just one woman? Japanese laws. I like all of you, why do I have to rank you?
Simon probably couldn't imagine how hurt and close to tears I was. I had forgiven his affairs several times before, confident he would always come back to me. But this time, he chose Kelly alone.
You're going to break up with Julie?
Yeah, that's what Kelly wants.
But what about Smith family? Will they be okay without Julie?
I don't know.
But political marriages are nonsense in this day and age, right?
I feel like neither Julie nor I are happy.
Kelly says I'm a celebrity now. Last month's paycheck was incredible, I thought it was a mistake. But celebrity life doesn't last. It's novel now, but it'll fade soon. You know how many one-hit wonders there are in the entertainment industry?
You need to think about that.
You're smart, Emily. You always think ahead. No, Simon, you're just too naive.
Truly a pampered rich boy.
Emily, I have a sommelier license.
If I wanted to, I could easily find work. He's so oblivious.
Then give me back my time. What?
For the first time, I spoke strongly to Simon, leaving him confused.
I believed I could eventually become your official wife these past 2 years. Give them back. I hated being in a common law marriage. But it was the only way to stay by your side. You said there was no end to your marriage with Julie, but there is an end with me. Of course, I'm just a mistress in a common law marriage. I could never be your number one.
I raised my voice, releasing all the words I had kept inside. But if we're breaking up, I want to say everything.
What's wrong, Emily? You've changed so suddenly. You're scaring me, Emily.
Watching Simon about to cry, I thought to myself, I'm the one who wants to cry.
Someday you'll get what's coming to you.
With those words, I left Smith House where I had lived for 2 years as a common law wife. If Kelly saw me now, she'd probably be smirking triumphantly. How long will it take before I can say I have no regrets, no lingering feelings? I heard about what happened next from Julie, of all people. Not because we were commiserating as the official and common law wives, but because we met by chance. Julie seemed to have come to terms with everything, showing a smile.
Do you know what happened to Smith family after that, Emily?
No, I don't want to think or remember.
After divorcing me, my family cut off their support. But Simon seemed okay. Because of his celebrity activities? Yes, but he's hardly in the public eye anymore. It was just a momentary fascination, and he quickly fell out of favor. But Smith family was counting on Simon's income, and now they're in big trouble. They're demolishing Smith House.
That was news to me.
The land will sell for a good amount, being prime real estate. They're buying a small apartment to live together as a family. Is Kelly with them? You don't know? Kelly left Simon as soon as the money ran out. What? She said Simon without money was useless and left him. But Kelly had maxed out his credit cards, and now she's on the run from debt collectors. Simon is really an idiot. We kept telling him that Kelly was just after his money. But he kept insisting not Kelly. Being gullible and pure is such a hassle. And the reason he was cut from TV and magazines, that was because he lied, right? About having a sommelier license. That's right, he obtained it illegally by paying for it. And now he's being sued by sponsors.
Julie and I laughed out loud. Serves him right.
From a harem to the homeless, huh?
Julie and I couldn't stop